In the high-altitude crucible of the Kadren Plateau, where wind carved scars into mountains and time stood still under a gray, pitiless sky, there was a place few would ever choose to be: Tactical Outpost 87. A scatter of steel and cement clinging to the edge of nowhere, its existence was as harsh and forgotten as the soldiers assigned to it. Among them was Specialist Eliza Shaw, 25, barely 5 feet 4 inches. Brown hair twisted into a regulation bun so tight it pulled at her skull. Calloused fingers, rough from labor, from duty that was never glamorous but always necessary. She wasn't the hero in anyone's story. She was logistics. She was the ghost behind the machine, the girl with grease under her nails and blood under her boots. Not her own, but scrubbed from gear that came back from the valley soaked in pain. In the mornings, she ate alone. Cold MREs, chewed mechanically, while laughter from the other soldiers bounced like shrapnel across the concrete mess hall. Keep the guns clean, Shaw. We need them working when the real soldiers head out. Good thing she failed sniper school. If we'd relied on her aim, we'd all be dead. They joked. They mocked. They ignored. She endured. No one asked why her hands trembled slightly when she cleaned rifles. The same hands that had once held breath steady at the Blackwater Sniper Academy, where she'd reached the final evaluation round before being failed for unreliable stress response. The official report was clinical, professional. It didn't mention how Sergeant Reynolds had slammed his clipboard onto her shooting table at the exact moment she squeezed the trigger. One misfire, one deliberate sabotage, one reputation undone. She wasn't reassessed. She was erased, banished to the rear lines, to the shadows, to the cleaning racks and ammo crates. But talent doesn't vanish. It waits. And on one frost-bitten morning, fate came hunting. Mandatory sniper training exercises, just a formality. They needed warm bodies to fill quotas, and Shaw's name was added to the roster as a joke. She arrived at the range in silence. Clutching a borrowed M24 sniper rifle, she stood in line, invisible as ever. Staff Sergeant Martinez, a wall of muscle with a nicotine-stained mustache, sneered as she stepped forward. "Don't cry when you miss, kid. This ain't cleaning duty." More laughter. They were already rehearsing the punchlines for when she failed. Shaw said nothing. She lowered her head, adjusted the scope, dialed in the wind, ran the numbers. Her breath was even, her fingers steady. One shot, one chance, one reason to be remembered. The rifle cracked like lightning, and the laughter died. The target, 800 yards out, shattered. Dead center. Silence fell. The rarest sound on a military base. Martinez stared. Others looked around, trying to understand what they'd just seen. Shaw stood, calm, unshaken. She said nothing, and walked away. 2 days later, General Logan's convoy rolled out. 6 armored vehicles. A routine inspection along the disputed Kadren Valley floor. Satellites said the route was clear. Drones confirmed. Intel smiled. They were wrong. The ambush came without warning. Electronic jamming. GPS scrambled. Radio channels flooded with white noise. A sniper on Eagle's Peak. 900 yards of perfect elevation and complete visual command over the convoy's every move. Vehicles scattered. One exploded. Chaos ensued. The field commander screamed into dead radios, "We're pinned! Sniper on elevation. We need counter-sniper support. Now!" But there were no snipers. Every certified marksman had been deployed east 72 hours prior. Outpost 87 had logistics. And Eliza Shaw. In the shadows of the command bunker, she wasn't even asked. Her security clearance didn't allow combat deployment. But she was monitoring the thermal scopes, And she saw it. A single heat signature on Eagle's Peak. Hidden, but not from her. The sniper's lair. Perfect elevation. Perfect cover. No way for anyone down there to retaliate. She keyed the mic. "This is Specialist Shaw. I have visual on the enemy sniper. Requesting permission to engage." The reply was immediate. "Negative, Shaw. You're not authorized. Stand down." Inside the bunker, chaos roared. Officers shouting over each other. Desperate, useless strategy. Every second burned toward death. Shaw stood in the corner. She knew. She knew where the shot needed to go. She knew how much time was left. And she knew no one else could make it. She made her decision in silence, without orders, without permission. She took her rifle and disappeared. She climbed the frozen ridge to observation post 9, hands trembling from cold, not fear. Her breath ragged, eyes stinging with wind. She whispered calculations into the storm. Western wind, 15 knots. Thermal inversion, layer 2. Elevation adjustment, 2.3 degrees. She dialed the scope. The enemy sniper shifted behind his yards, prepping for his next kill. One Shaw didn't blink to save. She exhaled and fired. The sound was dry, sharp, almost drowned in the wind. In the valley below, silence fell. Then the enemy sniper's body slumped. His rifle tumbled down the rocks like broken steel. His shattered scope caught the sun. A rainbow glinted in the wind. Back at base, chaos reigned. Who fired? What unit? We had no authorizations. They scanned logs. None matched. And then a calm voice crackled through the emergency channel. "Command, this is Specialist Shaw at Observation Post 9. Enemy sniper neutralized. Convoy is clear to proceed." The bunker froze. Captain Rodriguez blinked. "Shaw? Eliza Shaw?" Lieutenant Morrison checked the logs. "That's what she said, sir. She's not even cleared to carry an M24. Then Sergeant First Class Williams stepped forward, quiet as a storm. "She trained under Master Sergeant Carter." The name hit like a thunderclap. Carter, legendary sniper. Trainer of SEALs, Rangers, Tier 1 operatives. The man with the longest confirmed kill in military history. "She was his final student," Williams whispered. "He trained 3. Only 3. She was the last." When General Logan returned alive, his first order was simple. Ballistics. Now. The report stunned the brass. 900 yards. Crosswind. Vortex slide technique. 2 thermal layers corrected in a single breath. A shot so mathematically perfect, only a dozen humans alive could attempt it. And she had done it alone. General Logan's eyes burned with fury and awe. "We evaluate soldiers by politics, while ignoring lethal brilliance in our own damn hallways. I want a full report on how this woman ended up cleaning rifles instead of carrying them. I want names. I want charges." The investigation was brutal. The truth, harsher. She had been sabotaged, undermined, excluded, because she was too good, because she was a woman. That night, Tactical Outpost 87 changed forever. The same men who mocked her stood in line to thank her. Martinez came first. "Shaw," he cleared his throat. "I owe you more than an apology. I owe you my life." She looked up from her rifle. "You don't owe me anything," she said, and went back to cleaning. But everything had already changed. Forever. The medal ceremony was short, sterile. No cameras. No flags fluttering in dramatic slow motion. Just a cold hall. A row of stiff-backed officers. And one soldier standing alone. Eliza Shaw received the Silver Star with a quiet nod from General Logan himself. No speech, no applause. Only a whispered command as he leaned close. "This changes everything. Be ready." He was right. That one shot echoed far beyond the valley. 2 weeks later, Langley, Virginia. The world she entered didn't wear uniforms. It wore tailored suits, dead eyes, and secrets. A quiet room, oak-paneled walls, one blinking light overhead. A classified debrief so high-level the air felt heavier. Across from her sat Director Hannah Keene, Deputy of Intelligence Operations Command. Steel gray hair, surgical gaze. A woman who'd watched governments collapse over coffee. She didn't introduce herself. She just slid a file across the table. "We've been watching you for years, Shaw. Ever wonder why Carter picked you? Why he fought to keep your training off the record?" Eliza didn't flinch. "I assumed I failed." Keene's lip curled. "You didn't fail. You scared them." Inside the file, photos, black sites, collapsed regimes, bullet trajectories, kills that never officially happened. And at the center of every operation, Project Whisper Glass, an off-the-books elite unit trained for surgical assassinations and zero-visibility infiltration. Snipers without files, soldiers without shadows, weapons with souls. There were only 6 ever chosen. Carter trained 3. Now, only 2 were active. "We want you to be the 3rd. 6 weeks later. Northern Syria, she wasn't Shaw anymore. She was Ghost Call 3. No insignia, no dog tags, just a call sign, a suppressed rifle, and a mission brief uploaded via retinal implant. Her first op, Silent Ridge. Objective: eliminate a rogue deep-cover CIA asset, now commanding a warlord faction near the Turkish border. The mission profile warned of high-value bodyguards, encrypted drone defenses, and a hostile environment too hot for conventional teams. Shaw was dropped 12 miles from the compound at midnight. No backup, no communications. Only the wind and silence. She crawled through thorns, waited 8 hours beneath a carcass to avoid infrared sweepers, slept once, upright, eyes open, leaning against a wall of bones in a collapsed goat shed. By hour 28, she had visual. Target appeared, stepped into the open, unaware. Wind, 9 knots. Elevation, 600 feet. Thermal lens distortion, 0.04 drift. She adjusted, exhaled, fired. The bullet struck beneath the clavicle. No headshot, no chest trauma, non-lethal. She approached. Silently, calmly. The man gasped, looked up. Who are you?" Shaw leaned in. "Your last mistake." She pressed a gloved hand to his wound until his eyes faded. Not for mercy, to listen, to remember. Because every name she ended was entered into her own ledger, not the government's. She exfiltrated without trace. 6 hours later, a Turkish news outlet reported a mysterious drone malfunction caused an explosion in the hills. No mention of gunfire. No mention of bodies. Whisper Glass always cleaned its own tracks. Months passed. She became legend. Operation Pale Flame. Took down 3 rebel lieutenants inside a moving armored convoy using ricochet shots off building glass. Operation Hollow Crown. Infiltrated a Siberian satellite bunker during a polar storm and neutralized a rogue hacker syndicate with a single bullet that passed through 6 feet of frost. No photos, no recognition, only fear. Enemies began calling her the Echo, because no one ever heard the shot that killed them. But inside, something else was growing. A quiet rebellion, not against orders, but against the system that used people like bullets. She had obeyed. She had vanished. And now, even her soul was filed under redacted ink. Master Sergeant Carter paced in front of her. "There's something you need to understand, Eliza. You think you're being trained to kill. You're not. You're being trained to endure." He tossed her a photo. A child. Brown eyes. burned building behind him. One day, you'll have to aim at someone and wonder if pulling the trigger ends a threat or begins a war. And you'll be alone when you decide. Present day, Bangkok. Eliza Shaw had one final mission. Code name, Black Thread. Target, a CIA handler gone rogue. Spectre. Real name, John Mallory. Her predecessor. A whisperglass operative turned mercenary. Too dangerous to capture. Too smart to trace. Until now. Intel placed him in a corporate tower during an arms deal. Shaw infiltrated disguised as an executive. Tight bun, black suit, concealed sidearm. She took the elevator up and found him already waiting. "You're late," he said, smirking. "I trained 3. Carter trained you? I know how this ends." "Do you?" she said, drawing slow. He laughed. "They used me. They'll use you. You're a ghost, Eliza. But ghosts fade." She aimed, paused. "Then maybe it's time someone saw me." She fired. Mallory fell through glass. Body disappeared into Bangkok traffic. No recovery. No trace. Mission complete. But Shaw didn't call for exfil. She vanished. Unknown location. 6 months later, a video went viral on dark military forums. Grainy, distant. A woman with a sniper rifle dismantling a cartel operation in Guatemala. Alone. Unconfirmed. Unclaimed. But one line written in the metadata. "You forgot what real silence sounds like?" She didn't exist. No files, no passport, no trace in any satellite registry. Eliza Shaw had become a shadow to shadows, not just off the grid, but off the map. And yet, she was everywhere. Border patrols whispered of a sniper in the Carpathians. Cartel runners told tales of a woman who erased entire supply lines alone. And deep within NATO, someone had reopened a file once stamped permanently sealed. Its title, Project 0 Point. Underground Safe House. Romania. A voice crackled through a dusty speaker. "You're making noise, Eliza. We built you for silence." She replied without turning. "You built me for control." Silence was just the leash. Across the room, an ex-KGB codebreaker named Sergei Valinov trembled, eyes wide. You're the Echo. The real one. But you were. They said I was dead?" she interrupted. "They always do. Before I make it true." Sergei slid a USB across the table, hands shaking. "This has everything. Names, accounts, even the coordinates." She raised an eyebrow. "Coordinates to what?" Sergei swallowed. "To where they built the others. Project 0 Point. Revelation. What she uncovered changed everything. Whisperglass wasn't the end. It was the prototype. 0 Point was the evolution, a genetic enhancement program to manufacture precision killers with emotionless AI brain augmentation and programmable loyalty. A ghost army, permanent, disposable, and invisible. She thought she was one of a kind. She was one of 12, and 7 were still active, each trained in isolation, each with a moral firewall, each assigned to counterbalance the other if they ever went rogue. And her name wasn't just on the list. She was the final kill switch. Identity, Ghost Call 3. The designation wasn't random. It was a trap door. If Eliza ever broke protocol, Ghost Call 7, known only as Ash, would be deployed to neutralize her. Ash had no empathy, no doubt, no history. Just a simple protocol loop. If Echo rises, silence her. And he had just been activated. She approached, silently, calmly. The man gasped, looked up. Who are you?" Shaw leaned in. "Your last mistake." She pressed a gloved hand to his wound until his eyes faded. Not for mercy. To listen. To remember. Because every name she ended was entered into her own ledger, not the government's. She exfiltrated without trace. 6 hours later, a Turkish news outlet reported a mysterious drone malfunction caused an explosion in the hills. No mention of gunfire. No mention of bodies. Whisperglass always cleaned its own tracks. Months passed, she became legend. Operation Pale Flame took down 3 rebel lieutenants inside a moving armored convoy using ricochet shots off building glass. Operation Hollow Crown infiltrated a Siberian satellite bunker during a polar storm and neutralized a rogue hacker syndicate with a single bullet that passed through 6 feet of frost. No photos, no recognition, only fear. Enemies began calling her the Echo, because no one ever heard the shot that killed them. But inside, something else was growing. A quiet rebellion, not against orders, but against the system that used people like bullets. She had obeyed. She had vanished. And now, even her soul was filed under redacted ink. Master Sergeant Carter paced in front of her. "There's something you need to understand, Eliza. You think you're being trained to kill? You're not. You're being trained to endure." He tossed her a photo. A child. Brown eyes. Burned building behind him. "One day, you'll have to aim at someone. And wonder if pulling the trigger ends a threat or begins a war. And you'll be alone when you decide." Present day, Bangkok. Eliza Shaw had one final mission. Code name: Black Thread. Target: a CIA handler gone rogue. Spectre. Real name: John Mallory. Her predecessor: a Whisperglass operative turned mercenary. Too dangerous to capture, too smart to trace. Until now. Intel placed him in a corporate tower during an arms deal. Shaw infiltrated disguised as an executive. Tight bun. Black suit. Concealed sidearm. She took the elevator up and found him already waiting. "You're late," he said, smirking. "I trained 3. Carter trained you. I know how this ends." "Do you?" she said, drawing slow. He laughed. "They used me. They'll use you. You're a ghost, Eliza. But ghosts fade." She aimed, paused. "Then maybe it's time someone saw me." She fired. Mallory fell through glass. Body disappeared into Bangkok traffic. No recovery. No trace. Mission complete. But Shaw didn't call for exfil. She vanished. Unknown location. 6 months later. A video went viral on dark military forums. Grainy. Distant. A woman with a sniper rifle dismantling a cartel operation in Guatemala. Alone. Unconfirmed. Unclaimed. But one line written in the metadata. You forgot what real silence sounds like. She didn't exist. No files, no passport, no trace in any satellite registry. Eliza Shaw had become a shadow to shadows, not just off the grid, but off the map. And yet, she was everywhere. Border patrols whispered of a sniper in the Carpathians. Cartel runners told tales of a woman who erased entire supply lines alone. And deep within NATO, someone had reopened a file once stamped permanently sealed. Its title, Project 0 Point. Underground Safe House. Romania. A voice crackled through a dusty speaker. "You're making noise, Eliza. We built you for silence," she replied without turning. "You built me for control." Silence was just the leash. Across the room, an ex-KGB codebreaker named Sergei Valinov trembled, eyes wide. You're the Echo, the real one. But you were, they said I was dead," she interrupted. "They always do, before I make it true." Sergei slid a USB across the table, hands shaking. "This has everything. Names, accounts, even the coordinates." She raised an eyebrow. "Coordinates to what?" Sergei swallowed. "To where they built the others." Project 0 Point. Revelation. What she uncovered changed everything. Whisperglass wasn't the end. It was the prototype. 0 Point was the evolution. A genetic enhancement program to manufacture precision killers with emotionless AI brain augmentation and programmable loyalty. A ghost army, permanent, disposable, and invisible. She thought she was one of a kind. She was one of 12. And 7 were still active. Each trained in isolation. Each with a moral firewall. Each assigned to counterbalance the other if they ever went rogue. And her name wasn't just on the list. She was the final kill switch. Identity. Ghost Call 3. The designation wasn't random. It was a trapdoor. If Eliza ever broke protocol, Ghost Call 7, known only as Ash, would be deployed to neutralize her. Ash had no empathy, no doubt, no history, just a simple protocol loop. If Echo rises, silence her. Rain poured. Neon lights flickered across glass buildings like ghosts trying to escape. Shaw moved like wind between crowds. She wasn't hunting now. She was being hunted. A whisper behind her, a reflection in glass. No sound, no warning, only motion. She dodged just in time, a knife grazing her ribs, silent as breath. He was tall, calm, robotic in his movement. Ash. The fight was ballet, vicious, calculated, without anger. He didn't hate her. He didn't care. Every blow he struck was a line of code. "You are obsolete," he said mid-clash. "Emotion reduces efficiency. History corrupts purpose." She bled. He didn't. "And yet you missed," she whispered, slamming a flashbang into his side. The explosion was light only, enough to blind sensors, not eyes. She vanished. Mission redirection. Shaw's choice. She had a choice now. Disappear again. Destroy the system that created her. She chose the second. Through the USB, she found the zero-point core server, hidden beneath an abandoned CERN facility near Geneva, accessible only through biometric DNA from one of the original 12. She was one. So was Ash. She needed him alive. The infiltration. In a stolen Swiss military truck, she drove through freezing rain into the facility. Everything was automated. Laser scanners, AI security drones, inside, cryogenic pods, blue-lit corridors, rows of sleeping ghosts, each one a future nightmare. At the heart, the core AI named RAITH, Recursive Autonomous Intelligence for Tactical Hostility. She connected the drive, uploaded a worm, severed Echo. A kill code designed to wipe out neural loyalty protocols, awaken memory, and destroy command override. She had 1 minute to survive. Ash arrived, shot her once in the shoulder, cornered her against the server wall. Emotion is inefficient. Surrender. She pulled a knife. "Then why are you hesitating?" He paused. In his iris, a flicker, a memory, a boy in a forest, a mother calling his name. Not Ash. Jonas. That moment was enough. The worm activated. Every pod began shaking. The cryo chambers cracked, and for the first time, 12 ghosts began to dream. The collapse. The facility went into meltdown. Wraith initiated self-destruct. Walls buckled. Fire danced across data cables. Ash, now Jonas, grabbed her. "Come on, we burn this place together." They ran, out through smoke, out through silence, into daylight. 3 months later, somewhere in Portugal. She sat by the shore, hair loose, scarred hands holding a cup of bitter coffee. Jonas stood beside her, watching seagulls fight the wind. "What now?" he asked. She didn't answer, but in her pocket, a list of 4 remaining whisper-glass targets. Corrupt architects, shadow kings, men who thought they could use ghosts forever. "Now?" she finally said. "Now. We haunt them back." The rain in Lisbon fell like a confession no one wanted to hear. Thick sheets slapping against ancient stone, as if the ghosts of every war were trying to wash the city clean. Eliza Shaw stood motionless on the rooftop of a crumbling hotel, the sea wind tearing at her coat, but her grip on the rifle case in her left hand was unshakable. Below her, neon lights flickered across wet cobblestones, and foreign voices hummed in narrow alleys, unaware that tonight, in the shadows of a sleeping Europe, a reckoning was coming. 3 days ago, she had extracted a name from the encrypted black archives stored beneath Tactical Outpost 87, the Cardinal. Not his real name, just the title of one of the men responsible for creating, funding, and then burying the 0 Point project. The man who had helped destroy her reputation and lock her skill set inside a cage of logistics and maintenance reports. He wasn't military. He was deeper than that, older, connected to the Vatican's intelligence shadows, a place where silence bought power and confessions turned into leverage. Her contact, Ash, formerly known as Jonas before the CIA wiped his name, had traced the Cardinal to a heavily protected private chapel in Vatican City, accessible only through tunnels beneath St. Peter's Basilica. Gaining entry required a code known only to initiates of the Holy Cipher Circle. Eliza didn't need the code. She had something better: leverage. 2 nights ago, she had intercepted a Vatican courier with sensitive documents encrypted using a deprecated Cold War cipher. It took her 7 hours, 2 espresso shots, and a migraine to crack it. But the moment she saw the red sealed envelope labeled CVR Sanctum 7 only, she knew she was close. Close to the first name on the list. She arrived in Vatican City under the alias Sister Maria Castella, wearing a rented nun's habit and a veil that obscured her eyes. No one questioned her presence as she passed through marble halls and sacred corridors. The world assumed obedience in silence, which was always their first mistake. The underground chapel was colder than she expected. Candelabras lit the walls with a trembling golden light, casting long, uncertain shadows over stone pillars and stained glass. The Cardinal was alone, seated in front of a table holding a golden cross and a laptop with a secure line that routed through 6 continents before reaching its destination. He turned slowly as she approached, his eyes not surprised, just tired. "You're not supposed to exist," he said, his voice cracked with years of command and consequence. Eliza didn't speak. She placed the rifle case on the pew beside her and opened it. Not a weapon. Not yet. Just parts. She began assembling the M24 with the care of someone preparing for a sacred ritual. "They said you were compromised," he continued, standing slowly. "They said you failed the final." Eliza snapped the bolt into place. "You said I failed." The Cardinal smiled without warmth. "Because the program wasn't meant for people like you." She looked up. "People like me?" "Women who don't bend. Recruits who don't break. Soldiers who don't obey. You scared the program." She chambered the first round and aimed not at him, but at the small sensor embedded above the chapel's entrance, an invisible tripwire that silently alerted Vatican security. One shot. It shattered like glass made of sound. Silence returned. "You don't get to hide in robes and rituals anymore," she said, her voice low, steel wrapped in silk. "You built 0 Point. You buried it when it went wrong. You destroyed careers. And you made sure the truth stayed dead." The Cardinal looked at her without flinching. "So what now? You execute me in a holy place?" Eliza pulled a folded paper from inside her coat and dropped it on the table. It was a list: names, dates, black sites, false flags, terminated assets. "You're going to expose them for me. Every one of your co-architects, their locations, their backups, their safe houses. You'll transmit them using your secure line. And if you don't..." She pointed the barrel at the laptop this time. "I destroy everything." He stared at the list, at the names, at the ruins of an empire he helped build now being used against him. Why should I help you? She leaned closer. Because you know I'm the only one who can reach the rest before they vanish. You built a world that thrives on silence. I'm here to break it. For 10 seconds, he didn't move. Then slowly, almost reverently, he began to type. Coordinates, protocols, kill switch triggers. Every entry unlocked a new layer of secrets. He typed like a man confessing his sins, knowing absolution would never come. When he was done, she didn't thank him. She uploaded the data to a dead-drop satellite server, one Ash could access remotely, and wiped the machine clean. The Cardinal watched her with something like awe. "You're not just a sniper," he whispered. "You're a weapon they forgot they built." Eliza didn't answer. She just turned and walked back into the corridor. She left him alive. That was the real punishment. Let him live with what he'd done, and with what was coming next. Outside, the bells of Vatican City began to toll. Eliza disappeared into the crowd of pilgrims and prayers, a ghost wrapped in silence, carrying a rifle no one saw and a war no one else could fight. Ash's voice crackled in her earpiece. "Got the data. You're not gonna believe who's next on the list." She didn't ask. Not yet. Because war wasn't fought in bullets anymore. It was fought in exposure. Truth was now a sniper round, and Eliza Shaw had just chambered the second shot. The streets of Marrakesh buzzed with the false comfort of color and sound, spices in the air, markets pulsing with life, voices layered over one another in chaotic rhythm. But for Eliza Shaw, everything had slowed to a calculated silence, because somewhere in this living maze walked a man who had built death into code, who had stitched algorithms with body counts, and had once ordered her off a battlefield not to save her, but to erase her. And she remembered his voice, cold, deliberate. The voice of someone who believed in equations more than empathy. They called him the engineer. Not because he built machines, but because he dismantled humans like them, carefully, piece by piece, and then reassembled them into weapons they could control. He was the architect of Operation Babel, the mind behind Protocol Ashen Sky, the one who signed the order to burn Section 9 into a pile of ash. And tonight she would face him not through a scope or a screen, but eye to eye, because some ghosts deserved to see who pulled the trigger. And as she moved through the crowded souk, wrapped in the loose anonymity of a linen shawl and mirrored sunglasses, her heart did not beat with revenge, but precision. The way it always had in training, before they sabotaged her score, before they labeled her unstable asset and buried her file under 10 layers of disavowal. And now Ash's voice came into her ear calmly. "He's inside the old observatory on the hill, guarded, but not locked down. He thinks he's safe." To which Eliza only replied, "No one's safe from their own design." And she moved fast, cutting through alleys, her mind already inside the building before her feet reached it, counting the guards by instinct, predicting their line of sight, slipping through shadows like a forgotten prayer. And when she reached the observatory, cracked stone beneath her boots, she found the door half open, a dare, perhaps, or arrogance. And when she entered, the air smelled of ozone and wires, computer banks blinking like digital stars. And there he was, the engineer, older than she remembered, gray at the temples, but still wearing the same smug certainty, typing something into a console without even turning around. "You're late," he said, as if she were still under his command, as if time still answered to him. And she didn't speak because there was nothing he could say that would rewrite what he had done. But he turned slowly, eyes scanning her like a blueprint. "They told me you died in Yemen." and she smiled without warmth. You told them to kill me in Yemen. And his silence confirmed it. Not out of guilt, but because men like him didn't waste time denying the truth. They just calculated the odds of surviving it. And he gestured toward the wall, where a projection of the zero-point interface flickered. You want justice? It doesn't exist, he said. Only control. You take me down. Someone worse replaces me. But Eliza stepped closer. Then I take them down too. And he studied her for a long moment, then slowly tapped a key, revealing a line of code so old it looked like dust. I didn't destroy you, Eliza. I created you. You're the only successful product of the failure. And she could hear the static in her ear now. Ash trying to warn her of something, probably an escape route, maybe reinforcements inbound, but she ignored it because this was always going to be personal. And she reached into her coat and pulled out a small device, a signal disruptor, coded with the original zero-point encryption, designed to collapse every server node tied to his network. And when he saw it, the engineer's face changed. Not with fear, but respect. Twisted and ugly. Clever girl, he whispered, using my own work against me. And she placed it on the console, pressed activate, and watched the data collapse. Years of espionage, black sites, contingency plans, gone in less than 10 seconds, like sand sucked into the wind. And as the screens died, so did his illusion of control. And he stepped back, cornered now. You think you're saving something, he asked, almost bitter. You think justice matters in a world built on silence? And Eliza raised her weapon, aiming at his heart. No, she said, but memory does. And she pulled the trigger, a single suppressed shot echoing like thunder inside stone, his body dropping like a system shut down from within. And she didn't look away, because some deaths had to be seen to be real. And then she turned, walking away from the room filled with dying lights and useless wires. And as she exited the observatory, Ash spoke again in her ear, his voice tense. The third name just went off-grid. Copenhagen. We've got a window of 72 hours max. And Eliza replied, already moving down the hillside toward the roar of the city. Then we moved tonight, because the mission had changed. The war wasn't over bodies anymore. It was over systems, narratives, truth itself. And Eliza Shaw had just destroyed a brain behind the curtain. Now she was coming for the mouth that spoke the lies. The freezing rain came down in diagonal sheets across the rooftops of Copenhagen, a city too old to care and too modern to be innocent. Its cobbled alleys and glass towers reflected a history of hidden wars and polished lies. And somewhere in the heart of that cold silence, inside a private broadcast studio that was supposedly decommissioned after the Cold War, a man known only as the Mouth prepared for his next transmission, unaware, or perhaps uncaring, that death was already climbing the building floor by floor, because Eliza Shaw had followed the signal trail from the observatory's shutdown, through encrypted routers and dead servers, all the way to this exact location, a place where truth had been murdered on airwaves for over a decade, where psyops met propaganda and turned public belief into a weapon. And the Mouth, a former intelligence broadcaster turned media kingmaker, had been the one feeding scripts to both sides of every war, his voice sculpting fear, his broadcasts launching proxy conflicts and assassinations disguised as accidents. He was the voice behind Zero Point's psychological division, the one who sold silence as safety and confusion as fact. And now he was about to go live with what he thought would be the next chapter in the illusion. But Eliza had rewritten the ending, and she entered the building not with a team, not with orders, but with a storm in her blood, her coat soaked, boots silent against marble. and as she ascended the service stairs, the sound of pre-broadcast static hummed through the ventilation like a heartbeat waiting to be stopped. And on the 17th floor, behind layers of biometric security and armed guards with state-of-the-art weapons, the mouth sat with his earpiece in, sipping herbal tea like a man who believed the world still bent to his voice. "Bring up file sequence Delta 9, he told the technician. "We go live in 3. But that technician never replied, because his body already slumped behind the console, a tranquilizer dart in his neck, and Eliza crouched beside the camera rig, her M24 disassembled into parts and reassembled into something far deadlier. A choice. And as the timer ticked down to live transmission, she emerged from the shadows like a truth that had waited too long to be spoken. "Your voice dies tonight," she said, calm, precise, and the mouth froze, blinking once, twice, his arrogance cracking like ice under pressure. "They said you were just a failed asset," he muttered. "They always do," she replied, stepping closer. "Until one of us breaks the script." And he tried to reach for the silent alarm, but she already had the override chip pulsing red in her hand. "No help's coming. You're the last one left, and you're going to confess." But he laughed, hollow, shaking his head like a man too invested in his own legend. "Confess? To what? There is no audience left that can tell the difference between reality and narrative." And Eliza tilted her head. "That's why I'm going to make sure they hear it from your own mouth." And with a flick of her wrist, she activated the auto-stream backup protocol, forcing every major satellite-linked media node to tune in, hijacking the broadcast, his broadcast, and as red lights lit up around them and cameras locked onto him, she threw a dossier onto the table. Real documents, real evidence, signed orders, decrypted messages, the playbook of how 0 Point had manufactured civil unrest, framed whistleblowers, and rewritten international treaties, and the mouth stared at the pages like they were knives pointed at his legacy. "They won't believe it," he said. "You'll just look like a rogue assassin." But Eliza reached into her coat and pulled out a small drive, plugging it into the master console. "This contains the truth," she said, "and you're going to read it." And when he refused, she didn't threaten him with a bullet. She threatened him with exposure, playing footage from his own archives, unbroadcasted rehearsals, falsified death reports, clips showing him rehearsing tears for fake tragedies. And slowly, his posture changed, the weight of survival collapsing into the gravity of truth. Because in the end, he wasn't a fighter. He was a voice, and voices only lived when they were believed. So he read, his voice trembling, reciting the confessions of 0 Point's psychological warfare program, his own involvement, the names, the operations, and as he spoke, people across continents watched, confused, shaken, some denying, some weeping, some breaking down because they had believed every lie he'd ever spoken. And when he finished, Eliza looked into the camera, her eyes steady. "We were never mad. We were never weak. We were just erased. And now we remember." And then she turned, walked out of the room while the mouth sat trembling in his broadcast chair, a ruined oracle surrounded by truth. And as she exited the building, Ash whispered, "Third target down." And Eliza simply nodded. One more to go. Because the final name on her list wasn't a soldier or a liar, it was the Hand, the executor, the one who gave the orders to silence Eliza's team and bury the past under operations no longer listed in any database. And now, the hunter was coming full circle, because to truly destroy 0 Point, she had to cut off the hand that signed every death warrant. And she wouldn't miss. The coordinates led her to a place that officially didn't exist. A black site so deep within the Bavarian Alps, it didn't even have a name. Just a code name etched into redacted files. Obsidian Gate. The hand was there. The one who pulled strings, issued silent kill orders, signed denials that buried her entire sniper team 6 years ago, and turned her life into a ghost file. The cold mountain wind was razor-sharp as Eliza Shaw approached the perimeter, draped in a thermal cloak designed to defeat radar and infrared, her heartbeat steady, every step loaded with the weight of memory. This wasn't just another mission. This was reckoning. Inside Obsidian Gate, underground and miles beneath the snow, the hand sat behind a curved glass desk overlooking a holographic tactical map of the world. No name, no rank, no face ever publicly recorded. But their influence was carved into global events. Wars started and stopped. Revolutions ignited and strangled. Whistleblowers silenced before their first breath of truth. They weren't a commander. They were the algorithm made flesh. A strategist who weaponized human psychology like a scalpel. As Eliza infiltrated the lower access corridors, each hallway was a test of memory and muscle. She remembered this place. She had trained here, once, before everything, before betrayal. The retinal scanner at sub-level E9 blinked red, then green. She was still in the system. No one had deleted her clearance, a mistake. Their final one. Meanwhile, the hand leaned back, reading the classified report from Copenhagen, where the mouth had gone live with a confession that had shattered PSYOP protocols worldwide. The news hadn't even made it to public networks yet, but in the black site, it echoed like an earthquake. Eliza Shaw. Alive. Active. Unstoppable. She was supposed to be erased, the hand murmured. She erased your silence, a voice echoed from the darkness. The hand stood slowly, turning toward the sound, but Eliza was already there, her M24 lowered, but not inactive. Did you think I'd forget the names? She asked. Did you think loyalty could be deleted? The hand didn't reach for a weapon. They didn't have to. Dozens of automated turrets clicked online, sensors locking in on her presence. But she wasn't alone. Ash's voice crackled through her earpiece. I've got your 6. EMP ready. She tapped her wristband. A pulse. The lights flickered. Then everything went black. Turrets down. Our eye systems fried. All that remained was human instinct. The hand, still composed, circled slowly. You think killing me ends it? 0 point is an idea. You can't shoot an idea. Eliza shook her head. Number. But I can end the person who built it. And I can expose everything you tried to hide. She placed a hard drive on the table, a data burst from the mouth's broadcast, coupled with files from Ash's infiltration of the Geneva vault. Names, dates, proof. Everything. They won't believe you, the hand sneered. They already do, she said. Your silence ends here. The hand lunged, faster than she expected. Military precision, but not faster than Eliza. She parried, twisted, slammed them against the glass wall. My team died because they trusted the system you poisoned. I won't make that mistake. A final breath, a final shot. Not from the rifle, from a hidden sidearm, one shot, center mass. The hand collapsed in their own command room, the architect of silence, undone not by war, but by truth. Ash's voice again. We have a problem. External signatures incoming. They're locking this place down. Eliza retrieved the hard drive, grabbed a flash module and planted it on the wall. Then we bury Obsidian Gate with its secrets. She ran. Timers ticking. The mountain trembled as she breached the surface. Explosions roared behind her like thunder fed with vengeance. And then, silence. At a safe house in Zurich, the hard drive was uploaded. A global leak. Truth unfiltered. Documents, voices, videos. 0 Point exposed not in courtrooms, but in consciousness. A war fought with information, and this time, won. The world changed overnight. And Eliza Shaw? She disappeared again. Not into shadows, but into legacy. Zurich, 3:17 a.m. The city slept under a blanket of cold fog, unaware that history had already shifted in its bones. Inside a fortified data center beneath a nondescript publishing firm, Ash sat at the helm of a quantum-secure network array, fingers flying across the glass interface. In the next 60 seconds, every major news outlet, whistleblower network, dark web haven, and state-level intelligence backchannel would receive the payload, the 0 Point leak. Beside him stood Eliza Shaw, expression unreadable. On screen, the file blinked. Final key required. Bio verify. Shaw, E. Ash turned to her. "You sure about this?" Her voice was calm, steady. "They burned my name. Now I brand the truth with it." She placed her palm on the scanner. The system unlocked with a chime. Broadcast initializing. Global mirrors syncing. Transmitting truth in 5, 4, 3. Across the globe, screens flickered. News anchors stopped mid-sentence. Military servers buzzed. Intelligence chiefs sat upright as the world was hit with an unstoppable wave of revelation. Operation 0 Point. A covert shadow directive operated through a network of deniable assets, front companies, and tactical black sites. Responsible for over 300 political assassinations, 17 regime destabilizations, and the suppression of internal military dissent. Primary architect, designation, the Hand. But it wasn't just documents. The leak was alive with audio logs, visual recon, thermal kill maps, drone footage, and voices, one after another. Voices of whistleblowers, soldiers, dead teammates. "This is Sergeant Malik. They told us the mission was reconnaissance. It was a purge. Corporal Vera here. I saw the orders. Eliza Shaw wasn't a failure. She was too good to control." And then, Eliza's own voice. "They tried to silence us with paperwork, but we weren't ghosts. We were soldiers, and we remember everything." The reaction was nuclear. The UN Security Council called an emergency midnight session. 5 world leaders stepped down within 72 hours. Interpol opened 47 sealed investigations. In the Pentagon, top brass watched in horror as classified ops unraveled in real time. And the public? The streets of Paris, Jakarta, Buenos Aires, and Nairobi were alive by sunrise. With protests, with graffiti, with chants, "We are the 0 Point. Truth has a sniper now." Meanwhile, within U.S. military ranks, Eliza Shaw's name transformed. No longer the ghost of failure. Now a myth forged in fire. A symbol of every soldier ever silenced. Back at the Zurich safe house, Ash turned from the screen. "It's done. You're everywhere." Eliza didn't smile. "It's not about me." She walked to the window. Outside, the first rays of sun cut through the mist. "It's about the ones who never got to speak. Now, the world has to listen." A soft beep echoed from her comms unit. A private message. Source, unknown. Text only. 3 words. "You missed one." Eliza stared. Her face darkened. She tapped a button, decrypted the coordinates. Ash looked at her. "Problem?" She holstered her sidearm. "One last ghost." Then she vanished into the morning fog. Still a ghost. Still a sniper. But this time, hunting for justice. Somewhere in northern Iceland, coordinates off every known map. A place that officially didn't exist. Eliza stood at the edge of a black basalt cliff, her silhouette sharp against the snow-driven sky. Before her, half buried into the frozen rock, was Facility Echelon, the rumored brainstem of Operation Zero Point. A deep-state fortress carved into the earth like a scar, hidden under geothermal vents, powered by stolen tech, guarded by mercenaries too loyal to question who they killed. She had come alone. No backup, no communications, no satellite support. 6 months later, a broadcast interrupted the World Military Tribunal live stream. "My name is Eliza Shaw. You told me I wasn't a soldier. You told me I wasn't enough. Then you gave me every reason to prove you wrong." Video footage followed. War crimes, confessions, battlefield betrayals. The last 0 Point secrets. Unredacted. Unforgiven. Eliza was never seen again. Some say she lives under a new name. Some say she died with the fire she lit. Some say she's still watching. Rifle in hand, scope zeroed in on the next corrupt monster who dares rise. But one truth remains. They called her a ghost. She became a legend. And in every dark corridor where truth is silenced and power plays God, she is still there, waiting, one bullet away. Because this mission wasn't about survival. It was about finishing the war they started when they tried to erase her. She moved like a whisper through the permafrost corridors, disabling cameras, ghosting past motion sensors. Every breath was calculated, every step, a memory of the men and women buried by the lies of this place. She found him in a vault beneath 300 feet of ice-reinforced concrete. The architect, the one they called the Hand. He was older now, wearing a 3-piece suit in a room filled with war monitors, satellite feeds, and failed kill orders. His eyes met hers. Recognition sparking, then fear, then resignation. "I knew you'd come," he said. "I was the last on your list," she answered. "What are you hoping to change?" She raised her weapon. "Not change. Finish." The silencer hissed. One clean shot. One final breath. The war room went still. Eliza moved to the main terminal, inserted a drive, began extraction of the last remaining 0 Point archives, names, missions, cover-ups, kill authorizations, every file they thought they had buried. The building began to shake. Self-destruct protocols triggered. She didn't run. She walked. Slow. Silent. Certain. By the time the first explosions tore through Facility Echelon, she was already gone. Swallowed by the snowstorm, leaving only a trail of disappearing footprints.